a conversation with the authors of the Naglieri General Ability Tests by MHS.
Hi, my name is Kim Lansdowne. I have been in gifted education as a teacher, a coordinator, a director, and I am currently on the faculty at Arizona State University teaching classes in testing and measurement.
Hi, Dina Brulles, and like Kim, I've been a coordinator and a director for gifted programs for large school districts, and I'm currently the Gifted Master's Program Coordinator at Arizona State University.
Hi, I'm Jack Naglieri. I started off as a school psychologist in the 70s, and I worked at Ohio State and at George Mason, and I'm retired, but still doing a little bit of work.
What kind of impact do the tools we use to identify students for gifted programs have on the trajectory of a student's life?
The assessments that we use to identify kids for these advanced learning programs, actually, really, without being overly dramatic, it really does change the trajectory of a child's life. It does. And from a very early time, having recognized that these kids have potential and putting them in programs that meet that potential can change everything.
What kind of challenges had you experienced around equitable gifted testing?
The three of us have worked together for probably 25 years, and during that whole time, we've seen the field continue to struggle identifying and serving these students. So we made it our goal to try to make a difference for these kids.
Dina and I have both been coordinators for large school districts in Arizona. And Arizona has a very diverse population. And what I found, and I know Dina did too, in our districts, is that we were really identifying very successfully the economically advantaged students, the kids that had a lot of resources. We were easily identifying those students using all different measures. But what we struggled with, and what the field has struggled with, and what we personally struggled with, really was identifying the kids that were economically disadvantaged and didn't have resources, and parents were working more than one job, and those were the kids that we really were focused on when we first talked about developing a new test.
I was a bilingual teacher, an ESL teacher, and I would see these kids being overlooked. And because I knew their culture and their language, I also knew they were very bright. And so there was a lot of personal commitment to this from both of us, because when we're coordinators, we're testing our students in multiple schools, and we're seeing these patterns that reflect what's going on in society and is continuing.
As a psychologist, I became dissatisfied with the tools that we use to measure ability, intelligence, when it comes to identifying these students. Pretty much from the beginning of my career in the mid-70s, I became more and more interested in how can we actually have equitable tests, or what would it take to make them? I got to the point of recognizing that what we needed to do was have tests that measure how well a student can think to solve a problem, and not test questions that require knowledge, because a person could be really smart but not very knowledgeable because they haven't had opportunity to learn. Tests that I'm most proud of in this context is the one that I've had the opportunity to make with my two co-authors here.
How did you begin to work on the Naglieri General Ability Tests together?
So Dina and I were coordinators in two very large school districts in Phoenix, Arizona. And so we went to Arlington, Virginia as coordinators, and we went with the purpose of really trying to find ways to identify our underrepresented populations. Jack was presenting, and so Dina and I went to see Jack's talk.
Jack planted the seed, I think, about, maybe 20 years ago. He said, there's got to be a way we can identify these kids in verbal and quantitative without using language. And several years later, he called us and says, okay, I've got a solution. We need to work on this together. And that's how the idea for the three tests, sprang.
And I remember there was some resistance from the both of you.
Yes, there was. We're like, that's not going to work. But it did. And then we were fortunate enough to fly to Toronto and meet everybody at MHS, and what an amazing team. And so having that, I think that was the final impetus that we went, okay, we can do this.
For more information, visit storefront.mhs.com/collections/Naglieri-ability-tests or scan the QR code.